up, Brian? How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great, Robbie. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. So excited to be here. Are you excited to be here?
I am.
Now, I'd like 2 eggs over hard.
Just
had to bring me down a peg.
Yeah, just had to bring your excitement level down because we want to have a good show. We don't need to be gushing tonight because we have a fantastic guest tonight, y'all. Don't we, Brian?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. My neck's going to get sore from nodding so much.
So what's up, PCP Army? Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. Tonight, me and Brian are having a conversation with a dude that I became a fan of pretty much 10 years ago when I picked up this book right here, Manhattan Project's #1. Obviously, I was getting into Jonathan Hickman. He was on Fantastic Four. I think at that time, he was I don't know if he was over at Avengers yet. I don't know if that had started, but
I don't think so.
Picked that up. Holy cow. Became a big fan of the artwork. And then there was this book, Leviathan, that the same artist was on. And I just was like blown away by the artwork and the detail. It was leveling up. And then we didn't see too much. And now he's back with a new project that me and Brian have gotten a sneak peek of, Axe-WIELDER Jon. It's on Zoop right now, already funded, smashing goals, just killing them, just like murder. Got an Uzi, went up to Zoop and was just like, I'm just going to make it happen, right? So I am telling y'all, you need to check out this book because this dude started just balls to the wall and it's only gotten better. So everybody, please join me and Brian and give a mighty, hearty station to the one, the only comic book creator extraordinaire, Nick Pitarra.
Station, guys. Hey, where were you at my wedding to introduce me, man? I love that. I appreciate that, dude.
You should have called, man. I would have been there. I'd have flown myself. It's been fine. How you doing, Nick? Thank you for being here, buddy.
Man, I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me on. It's been a crazy 2 days with the campaign going off. I was, very worried I was going to fall on my face, and the fans have really showed up. And I know you plugged it early, and you actually plugged it twice early on 2 of your shows, and I appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me on. And yeah, it was cool. A few YouTubers out there stepped up and let me, and helped me out. And I really think that's probably the future of marketing, the way you get y'all's reach and y'all's fan base and how they're endeared to y'all. So letting me mooch off of that means a lot, and I appreciate it.
Oh, it's fine because we've built our YouTube careers off of mooching off of y'all. You know what I'm saying? So if it wasn't for the content that you and your peers create, we wouldn't have our channels to talk about this delicious fandom that we have. And first and foremost, Nick, I do want to apologize. For the last 10 years, I've been saying your last name wrong, incorrectly. You've been all over YouTube this week. I've seen you on Comic Tropes. I've seen you on Perch. You said that Comic Tropes was your favorite YouTube channel. I'm not holding that against you. I understand. He's got a great channel, does really good work. So, I completely understand that. I'm not hurt in the least, but I am sorry for saying your name wrong. So many.
Well, I never correct anyone if it Pitarra or Pitarra. It's Pitarra. But people say Pitarra, and it's pointless to correct them. It doesn't bother me. So, I let it slide.
I'm sure people make this joke or whatever, but Jonathan Hickman's other Nick, I've been pronouncing his name wrong too. And you are the reason why I know how to pronounce it right, because I heard you talk about Nick Dragotta.
Instead of Dragotta?
Instead of Dragotta. I always went Dragotta. Yeah.
I mean, it could be. I mean, he could just be really nice and never correcting me when I hang out with him.
Yeah, so and then we wind up with this. We wind up in this Mark Millar situation where he's like, both are right. I'm like, yeah, but how do you say it? How do you say it?
Let's settle this now. I've called him Mark Millar for 20 years. He's Mark Millar, baby, 100%.
Yeah,
it just adds a little bit more flair to it, right? We already got one big Miller in comic books. We don't need another, right? So there you go. All right. Well, Nick, first of all, you're here to bask in the glory of Axe-WIELDER Jon, which is a graphic novel. It's going to be hardcover, right? Or is it soft cover?
It's an oversized hardcover, 148 pages. The main story is a little over 100 pages without the design work in there. And so, yeah, it's and we're doing it a little bit oversized, almost 12 inches tall. So
Okay. So it's on Zoop right now. I got a link in the description below. I talked about it on the wrap up. I talked about it after I read it on Rockin' Robbie Live. We're going to talk about it a little bit more, y'all, because yeah, we've talked about people that had crowdfunded books before. This is the one that I'm the most fully behind. Like I've been behind all these books. There's some really great stuff that we've gotten from great creators like David Pepose, John Lees, that we've had them on when they were trying to fund their books. But this is another level. This is like when Frank Miller becomes Frank Miller, when Jeff Darrow becomes Jeff Darrow. That's what this book is. This is Nick Pitarra becoming the Nick Pitarra that we are going to remember decades down the road in this crazy industry. So Nick, tell us real quick, just what is the book? Where's it at? What's going on?
Well, the book is called AX-WIELDER JON. It's my passion project. It's my writer-artist debut. I've co-written some stuff before, but never solo completely by myself. And it's, if you guys have ever seen Desperado and Danny Trejo's character, he's covered in knives. He's the knife thrower. I kind of like that design idea, so I figured I'll cover a big barbarian with axes. So he's got about 50 or 60 axes in a cape. He's got a shark jaw around his neck, and he's missing his face. And there's a legend going around that he's cursed to fall in love with the heads of his many victims. And so he's walking the barren wastelands, collecting heads, and hurling axes at people. And it's my excuse to break all my He-Man toys again. It's an adult version of Masters of the Universe to the extreme. So that's the elevator pitch, kind of. There's more to it, but I can't give spoilers.
Yeah, there's a lot more to it. There's a big hook there, and obviously this is just the start. This is like a oversized first issue, almost, in a way, like a deluxe edition of a first issue, because you introduce the character, the concept, the world, and then the hook, and it hooked me. We were talking about a little bit about the spoilers behind the screen here, and we loved it. We thought it was great. Brian, you read it, right?
I did, man. Yeah, absolutely loved it. Yeah, and you definitely got a lot of that, Masters of the Universe and barbarian vibe and everything. But then there's, grounded scenes where, there's people working in a castle, guys on the edge of retirement, and training his apprentice. And it's got a lot going on. It's fabulous.
Well, thanks, guys. I'm glad you like it. Not a whole lot of people have read it. I sent the advanced review copy out. That's not quite complete yet, but it's enough to read. And hearing y'all's feedback before we start talking means a lot. And I appreciate y'all taking the time to read it. There's a little bit of inspiration for it. I'm a big Mobius fan, obviously, and he's the famous French illustrator, also known as Jean Giraud. And he actually came in to do some design work on Masters of the Universe. And so that gold Skeletor at the end and Dolph Lundgren's outfit, that was designed by Mobius. And I actually own the original Dolph Lundgren He-Man design by Mobius, because I like to collect art. And I always wondered, like, what if he did sit down and illustrate the whole world, like that whole universe, and they didn't just take a thing or two. And, Mobius isn't around to do it. I'm not good enough, no one's good enough to beat Mobius. But I just figured no one else is going to try to do it, so I'm going to try to do it. And I wear my influences on my sleeve. I love Frank Quietly, love Seth Fisher, love Jeff Darrow. They're all in the Mobius tree. And none of those guys are, Seth Fisher's passed, but none of those guys are doing like this over the top manly. I call the genre muscle tech because it's like technology and machismo mixed. And so like I want that comic book, I want that heavy metal comic book. And there's lots of things I want from the industry. And so with this project, I was just like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this my way. I think crowdfunding is a great opportunity to see if fans are hungry for this, and maybe publishers don't want an over-the-top violent story with a disgusting face barbarian on the shelves. But then, like, I want to do it. And so this is the first project I ever started, and I was like, I'm not going to ask permission to create this thing. I told my wife, I was like, I'll sell what I got to sell. We'll do what we got to do for the next year, but I want to make this thing. And so I've never pitched it. I never pitched it to Image, Dark Horse, never shopped it around. I knew I was going to make it, and I had a rough plan to try to crowdfund it. And luckily, Zoop, reached out at a time when they were first starting out, last year, and they did the distribution and fulfillment. And then I was like, well, now it's all clear. if I get the distribution and fulfillment, I just got to promote this thing and draw it to the best of my ability. So on the pages in particular, they're usually comic books are 11 by 17, but I took every panel and drew every panel on an 11 by 17 board. So I'd like max out the detail. So I just went over the top and, paid a great creative team. They're all, Eisner nominees and just a couple Eisner Award winners on the team. And so I've just been going broke drawing this thing. So the last 3 days with the fans stepping up and us breaking 60,000 in just over 2 days. And I think we almost got 1,000 books ordered now, over 800 individual sales. It's freaking cool. And honestly, you promoting it twice before it came out I know they gave it a huge bump. Your fans are reaching out, and that means a lot. So thank you, man.
Oh, well, you're welcome, and I hope so. I hope the PCP Army is coming out in droves because this book is worth it. We got Joe Corallo in the chat saying, "What's up, Nick?" And everybody else, y'all, thank you so much for joining us tonight. This is going to be a fun night. The book is great. I love the muscle tech stuff. Don't forget the sorcery, right? Because He-Man's got that too, and that's something I've always loved. My favorite villain, my favorite comic book character of all time is Dr. Doom because of that blend. But I love that you're like muscle tech. Dude, that's what it is. And I'm a He-Man fan, as you can see.
I love that. I love that the castle in AX-WIELDER it's green, and I was like, everything's referenced. Our Skeletor's, his name is Lord Fang, but he's a little more disgusting. And every time I'm sending notes to the colorist, I'm like saying it but not saying it. He's like, "You mean green like Masters of the Universe?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's what I want."
I want that gray skull green, bro.
Yeah,
Come on, man.
Skull green.
Who's the colorist of this? Is it Garland?
Yeah, Michael Garland.
Mike Garland.
Yeah,
okay,
he's doing a great job. He can draw too, so he understands form really well. And me and him go back and forth on the palettes to get him right. And I'm drawing with so much detail. I know I'm killing the guy, but he's working hard. And then we got Farron Delgado, who's a great letterer. And if you notice some of the pages that have the sound effects in them, he's really trying to draw them in there and keep them organic and blend it with the art.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy with that. And then big shout out to editor Chris Stevens. And he's an Eisner Award winner. He's won a couple Eisners, put in really big anthologies together. And I knew I needed help writing, just honing myself and being disciplined and having someone to answer to, and also someone to call them up on the phone. I can't just keep calling my buddies and be like, "Oh, Lord Fang says this, and what do you think if this guy says, the puzzler says this," or whatever. People get sick of that after a while. My wife gets sick of it after a while. So I was like, I'm gonna have to pay someone to get down in these panels with me. And when he was working freelance, I was like, I snatched him up. And so I'm super excited. I'm really grateful for him. He's becoming a really good friend. We call each other and talk too much, so my wife's a little jealous at this point.
Oh man. So I want to know, you touched on this a little bit, but why did you decide not to shop this around? Why did you decide to crowdfund this? Why did you decide to go at it on your own? Is it something where you just is it, I don't know, man. Is it related to like how creators have been treated over the years? You just want something that's solely yours. You want to prove that you can do it outside of that system, because it's been proven. And I think you have the success that you've done. It's got to be one of Zoop's biggest comic book launches, if not the biggest, right?
Well, we're going to try to make it the biggest one Zoop has done. I'm going to try. And my art rep is just lining up. Like the cool thing about Zoop is they can work with individual creators about what you need. I couldn't do this with Kickstarter. I couldn't do it with Indiegogo. And I want my art rep to make my sales for me, but they're part of the campaign. So they're letting my art rep doing all that promotion. I got a whole promotional engine on his side, and the art sales are, some of the numbers that we're crunching and look really good. And we're going to add that to the campaign, and it's going to blow it up even more. So I'm excited about that. But for me, I got lots of problems with the industry. I love the industry. I love it, but I don't like that page rates haven't gone up since Howard Chaykin was asking for $300 in the 70s. Marvel, let's just be honest. I have a lot of friends that work at Marvel that don't make that now. I don't like that, they're using all this stuff for media and none of us are getting credit. I love writers. I love writers in comics, right? And I tell this joke in every podcast, but I'll tell it to your fans too. Grant Morrison, Robert Kirkman, Alan Moore, Brian Michael Bendis. I know you know where I'm going with this, but I'm going to keep going. Matt Fraction, Johnny Cates, and about 15 other fantastic writers. What do they all have in common? Do you know what they have in common?
You tell us. I mean,
they're
all failed artists.
All failed comic book artists. They're all failed artists. So I said, you know what? I'm just those guys with a little bit more stick with it. That's all. And if they can do it, I can do it. And instead of launching another writer's career, I figured I'd launch my own. And the solution was simple. Don't complain. Don't critique the industry. Try to do it your way, then improve it. And I really wanted to try to do it my way. And I was willing to fall on my face. And of course I got backup plans. Like, don't you think if this thing didn't launch well, I'd be writing Image tomorrow night, please, if you publish this, you know what I mean? But I got plan B and C. I'm not that foolish, but I really wanted to try to do it on my own. And I just figure that if I draw this as best I can, I've been working in the industry for over 10 years now. I know I'm doing pretty good work. I can launch my writing career. And so I love story. My wife's a writer. We always go back and forth. We can't watch anything because we pause it and critique it and stuff. And I don't know if that translates into learning about story or not, but I do love story and I love storytelling. And I love seeing how what you're going through in life falls back into your fiction, like little themes here and there. It's like if my hardships were reflected in the story arc of what John goes through, and vice versa. And you sometimes you do it and you don't even realize it. You go back and look, and there's this, like, life is metafiction in a way, like I think we live in language, like everything is speaking to you if you open your eyes and listen. Without being a pothead, I won't go too far down that rabbit hole.
I like it. Why Zoop? Because everybody, I mean, and obviously there's this I have come to find out there's this political divide between Kickstarter and Indiegogo and all this kind of stuff. But was that a factor, or I know you've mentioned it, that they are the ones that will distribute the books for you, right?
Yeah. So they're willing to do all the distribution, all the shipping, all the handling. Oh, then I don't have to do anything but draw, which is awesome. They stroked my ego. They reached out first. They saw the stuff online. They reached out first. I think this is cool. Shortly after Kickstarter saw it, and then they set up a meeting with me. But I already kind of verbally told Zoop, yeah, it sounds pretty good. So then I got to hang out with not hang out. We went on a Zoom call with one of their top advertising guys and their head of publishing. And I was like, well, what can you offer? And they said they would give me the top spot. And I was like, oh man, like nice. That's a great spot at Kickstarter. But then I told them no. I was like, man, I can't live. I gotta keep my word. So I went back to those guys. I was like, hey guys, this is what I'm passing on. So we got to blow this thing up, Yeah. And, but they're great. All joking aside, man, Zoop they're super supportive. They bent over backwards to make me happy. I kind of knew that Hickman was going to come over too, because me and him talked, and he's doing his Substack stuff, all of his hardcovers there. And I knew there's a couple more people coming up that are real big. And so there's some security there, but really it was tailor-made. And I try to think, like, it wasn't just like about me being a writer and artist. It wasn't just about me finding my own voice. It wasn't about me upset that, the big two doesn't pay enough. Also, like, you look at Kickstarter and Indiegogo, what are they missing? They're missing distribution. They're missing help with third-party distributors. They're missing help with customer service. They're missing help. So if this company shows up and they got the answers and they're there and it's presented to you, then stop being chicken and go for it, So I figured, let's do it. And then it's worked out well. It's worked out spectacularly right now. So
yeah, I mean, it's only been live since Tuesday, and you like 60K already.
Yeah, 60K.
Guys, what is it? 30? When does it end? Like, it's like a 40-day campaign, right? Because it's 40 days till you're 40, right?
40 days till 40. I think they mistimed it though. They started at 36. They got to add 4 days. I was talking to them about it today. But yeah, so yeah, it's 40 days till 40 till I'm an old decrepit man. And it's all done for me. But I was gonna say something. But this is the thing, man. Like, this is my one problem with crowdfunding is it is like circumventing shops. I love shops. Like, my local shops are my favorite. When I was in Austin Books and Comics, when I was in Houston, Bedrock City Comics, I would do signings, and I always do free sketches for anyone who comes at a show. Always do a free sketch, always free remarks. So the tier I'm most excited about that I'm going to make no money on after Zoop's cut and after the printing cost is the retailer tier is 50% off, which, that's nothing as a retailer. You get that all the time. But I'm going to do a free drawing and a signature in every book, a free remark and signature in every book. And I'm telling you, the book cost is pretty expensive with the shipping delays and the supply and demand, and the demand is high for hardcovers. So like our unit cost is pretty high. Zoop gets a cut too. And so I'm basically not making much, but I'm doing them just to make sure we have store presence and that stores don't feel slighted, because honestly, like I plan on this property being around a long time, and I really want the store exposure, and I want them to be able to turn $1 or $2 on me. And so they'll be endeared to me. And if I do take it to Image or Dark Horse down the line, they'll know the product, you know? So hopefully they more, we already got a ton of retailers that have back, but I mean, I'm going to draw for you guys. If you step up, I'll be there.
You got another one on the way, and it's because I of course I run a comic shop. I'm the store manager of the Deep Comics and Games in Huntsville, Alabama. But there have been plenty of Kickstarters that I wanted to support in the store, but the pricing's just not there for us, right? Like, we get a certain discount, we have to provide our customers with the discount, right? So you kind of throw all that in, and it's kind of like where the toy market is right now. Like, if we want to help support crowdfund a book, we can't make any money on it, right?
Yeah.
And I get that to a certain point on certain things, but what you're offering is a dream come true. Like, that's what every Kickstarter, Indiegogo, Zoop, that's what every crowdfunded campaign needs to do. I don't think we need to solely rely on, say, comic book retailers, the direct market, as much as other ways to go about it. But that's where you're going to really continue this, be able to like gather a fan base together. I plan on carrying plenty at my shop. I already talked to the owner of my store, and I had a conversation with them, and I was like, this is one. And so we're going to commit a little bit on this. And I think we're going to be able to move these out fantastically well, especially with you saying you're going to do remarks and stuff. So I want to just say that I think that's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I'm super pumped about it. And the good news is if we sell a lot of those, it does save me money. The higher, it's quantity of scale, right? The more we print, the cheaper the print run is. So even if I'm not making much on each one, it's going to drop the unit price where I'm making a couple more dollars on every book. So it makes sense. And I love shops, man. Like, I grew up in comic shops. I go and hang around. I'm that kid that won't leave, but's not buying much. But eventually, he takes his $14 and makes a couple decisions. Like, I love shops. Probably the shops maybe that don't love me, but I love them. And finding back issues and hunting for stuff and reprints and all kinds of everything. Posters, toys. Like, my room now, it's a big mess, but it's got. If you can't see it, but all along the walls, like wallpapers, all my action figures on a little 3-inch stand all the way around the room. So, I mean, your setup's real nice, Robbie. I dig that for sure.
Man, I got so much stuff in boxes and shit that I can't even see, so it's ridiculous. In fact, I'm so glad I got my comics in order because I was able to find my Manhattan Projects #1.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a clean copy, dude. That's nice.
Right, it's only ever been read like 25 times.
I'll say this: hold on to it because we always have some media stuff, and there might be something brewing.
I know. I can't wait for there to be more media stuff because I think once there's more media stuff, there will be more Manhattan Projects comics. And
that's what Hickman said. Like, well, we were going to go back to full strips because we got a little too. I think after the first 20, like between like 21 and 30, it just got a little. We were just playing too much, and there wasn't like I didn't like it as much. It wasn't as fun to work on. But the first 20 we plotted out tight, but we did Marvel style, and it was a blast. So like we haven't collected that third hardcover yet, but we do plan on coming back to it because there's a lot of setup that we haven't gotten back to. But Hickman got busy, I got busy, and eventually we'll get back to it. He's always said when we announce one of these media things behind the scenes, we'll come back and do an arc or two. So.
Man, yeah, that you mentioned on Purchase Channel that there was more Oppenheimer, and my jaw hit the table, man, because like,
oh yeah,
he's so cool in that comic. I still remember when I got #1, I got home and read it, and I wasn't too familiar with Oppenheimer as a person. I knew the name and I knew what he was attached to. I mean, we're in Huntsville, so we know who Von Braun is. I mean, when we went to the con this weekend, we went to the Von Braun Center.
Oh yeah.
So we're well aware of him, but. So I was reading it. I just remember being halfway through, and I was like, "Wow, this guy is like really evil and bizarre." I was like looking up Oppenheimer on the line. I was like, "Oh, okay, this is a take on."
I did that same thing. I was like, "Did he have a twin brother? Like, what's going on?"
I looked that up too. I was just like, "Man, I didn't know all this stuff." And then that last page, that panel with all
with all of them there. You see the split personality and stuff. Yeah, It was cool, man. I loved working on it. I didn't know how the readers would take it because it is a weird comic, but it's for people who don't know, the Manhattan Project was the experiment, or was the government program that made the atomic bomb, and they got all these brilliant minds together. Von Braun, Oppenheimer, Einstein, Feynman, and what they did was they made the atomic bomb. Well, if they made a bomb that was so secret the vice president didn't know about it, and so secret it was $1 billion project and it was the size of a small city, what else did these guys do? And so Manhattan Projects is everything else they did. So we've got multiple personality Oppenheimer. We've got Einstein, with a shotgun and a chainsaw running around killing aliens.
And it's it's an Einstein from Earth 2.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to spoilers, if you haven't read it, but we planned that out from so long ago, man. That was at the very beginning. There's that issue with Barbarian Einstein when the good Einstein comes back, and then me and Hickman were laughing because we were in South Carolina at the time, and we got together for coffee and hanging out. And he's like, "All right, as soon as the good Einstein comes back, spoilers, and Oppenheimer's good personality takes over, then Einstein comes in and kills him, thinking he's the bad one, and vice versa, And so as soon as you get him, he's gone. We waited 15 issues to play a joke, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So it was fun. Spoilers off now, but yeah.
Well, I mean, the book is it's been out for a while. Everybody should have checked out Manhattan Projects. If you haven't, I have done my job poorly here on YouTube. I have this.
Dude, I was going to say, you got the super rare 1 in 500.
Yeah, right. So I got this somehow. It came through my shop, right? It was in a collection we bought, and I was like, hey, it's signed by Jonathan Hickman. I'll buy this. But what's funny is that it's personalized.
Is it personalized?
It's personalized. Somebody named Tony. To Tony, enjoy science bad, Jonathan Hickman. I guess it's supposed to be 2012. I guess when that came out. Yeah,
it might be 2012. But it was a New York Comic-Con. They printed 500, and they were $50 a piece. And I know because I got a box of them that were left over. They sent them to me. That's the ones I give away to friends and stuff. But that's no one has that one. I never see it in the wild, so that's cool that you have it back there.
Dude, I feel even better now. It came in my shop. I paid way less than $50 for it. I'll tell you that. Yeah. But it came in my shop, and it's in my possession now. And I'm going to be at Heroes Con, and Hickman is announced for Heroes Con, and I have an idea to take that to him. Be like, can you re-sign this to Robbie?
Well, you can probably take a Tom and turn it into a Robbie, right? You could do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I could, but I think it would be a fun bit just to be like, will you sign this?
He loves doing try to get him to do a sketch. Tell him Nick Pitarra said do a sketch, because he's one of the few writers that can draw pretty good. But he does these he'll do sometimes a silhouette on one side and detail on the other. Ask him for an Einstein that's half the face is black, cover up Tom, and get him to do, and you'll have one of the rare books ever, because he did one in one of my books once, a sketch of Einstein like that. So tell him Nick Pitarra said you do a quick Einstein head sketch. And
yeah, I'm gonna go and meet Jonathan Hickman. He has no fucking idea who the hell I am. I'm gonna be like, by the way, Nick Pitarra said that you should do me an Einstein sketch. He'd be like, get the fuck out of here.
Hey, no, if you do bring it, if you do want it, I'll just text him and say, hey, do the sketch. He'll do it. Come on.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Please. Please. I'm going to be there. Heroes Con in June. So yeah, I'll be like Nick said, and maybe we should devise a code.
Yeah. I'm gonna say, hey, this cool dude Robbie's gonna come up. He's wearing whatever you're wearing, a pink shirt. He's gonna give you a high five, and you're gonna do an Einstein sketch with him.
I'm wearing a pink. I'm gonna have to wear a pink shirt now. Come on.
You have to do the high five too.
Now he's been one of my favorite writers for a while, and that's what led me to your work. And then I follow your career. And bro, one thing, Brian, don't worry, I'm gonna let you say something here in a minute. But I really feel like, first of all, I think you're a great cartoonist. You do a really great job of telling a story. And in Manhattan Projects, you kind of have like this big head, big eye. You got your own kind of style, and it's very quirky, and I like it. I like it a lot. AX-WIELDER JON is a whole other beast, bro. You have done something to your style, and maybe it's the 11 by 17 pages. And if you want to sell original art, you can sell way more pieces when you do it that way, I guess. But bro, the level of detail you can put in there, and I know that one of your big influences, Jeff Darrow, and I think that Darrow like draws on really big pieces of paper too, to like get that much in there. What was the inspiration behind that change in style, or that evolution in style?
Well, it was very conscious. Like, I was very aware of what I was doing. I know that I'm known as this silly, quirky, big head, bobbly-eyed guy, and I keep getting pigeonholed for that, right? But there's an element of comic books that the marketable, like big two books, that are drawn cool. Like quietly is a guy that's got some quirkiness, but he can still draw super cool. And I never tried to draw cool. And I was like, on this book needs to be marketed to the masses in a way, and it needs to look awesome. So I shrunk the heads down. I made sure the musculature looked a little more defined instead of like this bobbly head, googly eyed silliness. And I don't have any characters like scratching their ass or anything, because I usually get bored and I'll just like, oh, this guy's picking his ear. He's looking at it. He's doing this. And Hickman would have to ride around that, because it's Marvel style. He's giving the pages. He's like, what the hell do you got this guy doing this for, But on this, this one's my story. So I don't want to mess up my story, So now I'm like taking it dead serious. I'm a much meaner writer when it comes to the guys I collab with.
I'm sure Hickman appreciates that.
Yeah.
Hickman knows I love him, but yeah, I definitely would just goof off on the pages sometimes. But on this, it was like, I know what, on page 1 through 5, I know that I got to make this point. I can't be undermining it with silliness so much. I can have silly and humor and, banter, but that's, to build rapport and hopefully make a couple characters likable that otherwise wouldn't be, or maybe squeeze in some exposition and dialogue, which I hate, but you got to get some information out, what they're talking about. But so like, I would take like real estate and plot it out. Like when me and Hickman worked on Manhattan Project, he'd be like, okay, this page, we do this. Page 10, we turn it on its head. Page 20, we show it in a different light. So I laid out all of AX-WIELDER JON to the very end. And I knew exactly what I wanted to set up, what I wanted the reader to try to feel. And then so I could twist it and then do it again and twist it again. And I kind of did that for every character, and I did it for the plot. And then I really started stopping and thumbnailing it in. And I was like, well, this book is a barbarian book. Nobody wants a goofy barbarian. My market goes from 90% to like 5% of, goofy dudes out there that think a silly, it's not going to work. So I was like, I'm going to make this look awesome.
Yeah, Sergio Aragonés already did the goofy
yeah,
barbarian.
No.
Right?
I was gonna say, I was thinking like Aragonés is going to be mad because that's his market. He's got that cornered, right? But if I'm going to try to get the Conan fans and the He-Man fans, like everyone wants that adult He-Man that looks cool. Not everyone, I do, but I assume there's other people like me that are man children that want that, right? And so like I knew I knew the aesthetic I wanted, and so I wanted to push. There you go, baby. There you go, the one and only. Speaking of the pink shirt one, did you ever get the Adam one that had the pink shirt, the old school one? I had that.
Yeah, I have that. I have that one.
That one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I broke that on Christmas Day. I got it. And I kept spinning it around and broke it. And I guess maybe it's for the best, like who knows. But anyway, that was it. I was very aware of it. On Manhattan Projects, I knew that all these old guys wore these skinny suits back in the day. And I was aware that I needed to black them out and the silhouettes would still work, but they're all kind of the same. So I really took their heads and tried to like, this guy has the block head. That was Groves. This guy has the round nose that hangs over his lip. This guy does this. And I just knew it would be a vehicle for people to, it doesn't look exactly like them, but people would instantly recognize them. And within a few pages, they know that that's my guy from every angle. And so, but then also it does come off quirky and silly. And this story isn't meant to, it's got that in it, but it's not meant to be that forward aesthetic, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that you nailed the representation of all those scientists, right? We're down here in Huntsville, Alabama. Where we just had the Huntsville Comic and Pop Culture Expo was called the Von Braun Center, right? Yeah. So this is where he came. There was a parade and shit, And then it's funny because nowadays people from this area are like, yeah, but our whole town is built on a Nazi. I'm like, you just found that out? Like we've known that forever. But you nailed that stuff. And Von Braun is one of my favorite freaking characters in Manhattan Projects with his ridiculous arm and all that. And that's based on like a picture, right? Like a
So every weird thing that's in there, it's something Hickman has researched and found. And he had gotten a really bad car wreck. and he's got this. There's a photo, you can look it up. He's got this enormous cast. So Hickman's like, well, he's clearly hiding a robot arm, And I was like, all right, robot arm it is, baby. And so it would be stuff like that all the time. It's always little winks. And so if you are really nerd for that stuff, and the biographies of those really famous scientists and engineers and whatnot, you'll find little nuggets. But if you just want something insane with with an alt history thing, I mean, Manhattan Projects, we have such I think kind of highly educated people, like college educated. We got some doctors that are into the book. We got some scientists that are into the book. And I'm like, maybe this is what they like. I don't know. I like He-Man, so what do I know?
Yeah, I absolutely love Manhattan Projects. And I think it would make a great show. In fact, when I first heard about the new Christopher Nolan movie called Oppenheimer, I was like, man, come on, y'all!
Missed it.
Christopher Nolan, you got to do it right. You missed the real.
Missed an opportunity there.
Missing opportunities. Brian, what you got, bro?
Oh well, I was gonna say on the style there, I went back and started rereading the Manhattan Projects, and then after got to read the AX-WIELDER JON review copy and noticed the style differences. I know we were talking about that, but it's like to me, the Manhattan Projects looks a little bit more like Darrow to me, but the AX-WIELDER JON is quietly, Frank Quietly just seems like headed more towards that direction and everything. So is that a?
Oh yeah. That's a good observation. I'm trying to be more subtle, more nuanced. When I drew the pages really oversized, I also gave myself the restriction of only inking with the 003 and the 005 micron, which are the smallest. And I collect art, and Quietly's originals are so delicate, and I'm very heavy handed. So I was like, I'm going to, at least if I draw it this big and ink it this small, then when it shrinks down, it'll look a lot more subtle. And so I really wanted it, again, also trying to look subtle and cool and visualize the world. Excuse me. I wanted to make this, I wanted to level up, and I could have kept drawing at that level and been faster, but the way I'm drawing now, I'm so happy with, and I'm getting the reason why the campaign's doing good is nobody knows me as a writer, and I'm just one of the Nicks that work with Hickman. It's because the pages look cool, it's because they look cool, and I know that, and I'm really happy about that. I was able to see that crutch in my work where I was always silly or always too wobbly, and I was like, you know what, you got to do this at a better level. You're gonna make this step. And like I said, 40 was fast approaching, and Jack Kirby created the Marvel Universe after 40, and I was like, well, can I get one on Kirby and just create this right before? No one can get one on Kirby because he's the man. But that was my deadline. I really wanted to be done with this book by 40, and I'm still on track to do it before the campaign ends. So it's getting closer and closer. But yeah, that's a really good observation. My art rep says the same thing, that I'm leveling up, and it's nice to hear. It's nice to hear.
Yeah. And also you do great things with the perspective too in there. Do you focus on that a lot? Because some of those, the big villain reveal. The way, the way you pick that angle, I thought that was just it was just perfect.
Yeah. I love perspective. I actually kind of learned to draw with perspective in a sense. My drafting table is really big, and I got, I used to have it extended and rulers taped together to get to the vanishing points. And if you know the perspective of a room, when you put a figure in it, like if it was an action figure floating in a 3D model and set it down, you could then use the perspective lines to shave away the mass. And so I'd be like, sometimes my shoulders would be like this. I'm like, wait, a straight shoulder would be like this. And then I need his arm out so his shoulder will lift. But I use the technical drawing aspect to really shave away my figures, and it would help me draw. It would make me more like Lego-y or something, or a little bit like action figure-y. And on AX-WIELDER JON, I'm just trying to be more organic. I'm trying to do that with the perspective, but then I want the figures to be voluminous and rolling, and not the perspective. I think is always correct at this point in my career, but I'm trying to pull back on noodling so much in the backgrounds and messing it up. I'm trying to use a lot more negative space. So.
Do you have a a template that you use for perspective, or do every time are you laying out 3 rulers trying to figure it out and all that kind of stuff?
The secret to perspective is it's a nightstand. You can draw a square about the size of a nightstand next to your sketch. So you draw the figure any way you want, put a nightstand next to them, and the vertical lines, whatever way they're going, like here, whatever the vertical lines are going, that's going to be your 1 point, whichever way the ones on top are pointed. And you just use that sketch, and you can use that and build out the whole perspective. So I always start with a rough by hand. But now, instead of using the drafting table, which I still have, I'll take a picture of it on my phone, pull it up in Procreate, and extend the canvas out. So the canvas in Procreate's really big, and my drawing's like this big in the screen. So I'm going to try to do this on here. My vanishing point would be right here, but my drawing will be like over here. So I'm drawing in this corner, and I'm going to that vanishing point, and I'll figure it out. And it's a lot easier. It's a lot quicker. From there, I print it out. I'll pencil it a couple times digitally, print it out blue line, pencil it one more time, then I ink. So it's a really complicated process. I always think that I'm going to get faster with the technology, but it just lets me just get more detailed, or it lets me do something else better. And it's just another piece of complication more than anything.
So you're still like actually drawing. You mean you're drawing real pages and all that stuff.
Oh yeah. So
you ink on those real pages too, right?
Yeah. Everything's by hand. So I got an art rep, Felix. He'll kill me if I started going all digital. Plus, I just can't get the touch digitally. I like it for roughing stuff out, but I don't love it for finishes. I can still tell even when people do good finishes digitally, there's something in it that I don't love as much, if I'm being honest. Like I like the raw, like you guys I knew you were in the John Lee shirt, but one of my favorite artists is the guy who does and then Emily Was Gone. His name is Ian Laurie. I saw stuff like 10 years ago, and I've commissioned so many times. That guy's like raw, he's doing digital like Batman like cover recreations now.
Those are crazy.
They're crazy. Like I was one of Batman's. I want to let Robin smoking a cigarette while Batman's eyeballs hanging out of his head. That's cool.
Yeah.
But the way he draws, the nature the lines come out of his hand is like in a loving way. It's like a demented child. So when he draws something, it adds this element of oddness. It heightens the story. And if people go digitally and stop trusting that honest language, that honest voice, they start all normalizing themselves. The language of the lines start normalizing themselves. And I look at like the big two, and it's just like the same person is just replicating over and over. I want that uniqueness, and I love them for their skill set, but I want something to hook onto that's completely them. This is like Jack Kirby has this saying where he gave this speech in the 70s, I think at the first San Diego Comic-Con, and he says, lots of guys draw better than me. Lots of guys draw better hands than me. Lots of guys draw better hands than me, better heads, better torsos. But you know what? They don't get the reaction that I get. They don't have the energy that I have. Something about what I'm doing is getting a reaction. And I believe that voice, I believe that. By the way, I saw that post up. Thank you for ordering. Thank you for ordering the book, man. That's really cool. Thank you.
Yeah, man.
But Kirby had that saying, and trying to be. And I'm a guy that wears my influences on my sleeve, so I'm like half a liar, because I want to draw like Mobius and Quietly and Darrow and all those guys, but I'm trying to find my voice with AX-WIELDER JON. And if I'm stunted there, maybe I can find my voice in my writing and mix match the two and become a new entity, into my 40s and work on this book. So.
Yeah, I've been doing a deep dive on Cartoonist Kayfabe. They do so many great conversations and interviews. Their shoot interviews that they do. They had one with Frank Quietly, a couple with Jeff Darrow. And I was surprised to learn that Frank Bolin has been like doing digital artwork for like
Brian Bolin.
Brian.
Bolin,
Who did I say? What did I say?
You said Frank.
You got Frank. Okay. You got Frank and Brian because you just said Frank, but you.
Oh yeah, but yeah, Brian Bolin. I was surprised to hear that he does his stuff digitally. Frank Quietly was talking about it, and they asked him like, "Do you have a limit of how far you'll zoom in?" Right? Because then you just get stuck. And he mentions that it's a problem sometimes, like where he'll just keep going in further and further and realizing it's not something that's even going to be printed. You mentioned you're inking with microns at 0.3, 0.5. That's ridiculous.
0.005.
Yeah, 0.0305. That's ridiculous, bruh.
Yeah, they're tiny. But it's reproducing. Oddly enough, I was terrified. I was like 50 pages in, and I hadn't really scanned anything yet. Some people heard how big I was working in the pens. They're like, "You should do a scan." I was like, "Actually, I have no idea if it will." But it turns out I can adjust them and darken them and stuff. So I rolled the dice there too. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
that was
Are
what
you,
I was
you're
wondering.
you're
because-
talking.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, I was saying you were talking about quietly. I got some original art here. I'll hold up a quietly piece or two. Let me look here.
yeah, please do. That'd be great.
I know that you see a reflection, but like you can see his stuff here. This
Oh
is
my
inked by Trevor
goodness.
Scott, and yeah, it's pretty cool.
Oh, wow.
And then speaking of his subtlety, like he didn't ink himself here, but on this one he inked himself, so you can kind of see like the subtle meat of his face there, and those
Yeah.
tiny lines shading under his lips. It's so crazy, like the fur on his pants,
Yeah.
but also on his chest. It's like he can, like I think I'm being subtle, but this guy's he's graceful, you know. He's like a wonder. And so like
Yeah.
when your idol is somebody like that, you'll never catch him, you know. You just gotta keep climbing and climbing. And I think I've climbed far enough to where my stuff is getting a reaction now, you know.
Bro,
So,
you got an original page from Flex Mentallo.
Yeah, that's Flex
Like-
Mentallo, isn't
I
it?
got the cover to number 1 over here. I own the
What?
first cover to Flex Mentallo. Yeah, it's over here somewhere. I'll
What?
pull it up.
Oh
here it is.
my God.
Yeah, so check it out. Cover to number 1 Flex Mentallo.
Oh my, wow,
Bruh.
Look at that,
that
hair,
is
dude.
gorgeous.
Look at that body
Look at-
hair. Oh my God.
It's
Scott
good,
Williams
man.
is so jealous right now. He's just like, what the hell? How do you do
And then-
body hair like that?
There's something that this is another thing. I'll do one more piece of art, but he did like 5 roughs for this cover, and he did these roughs and turned them into DC. Well, check this out. Like this is the rough that he did. This is the rough that he did. So like you can get in here, look at his eyes and the irises. This is a rough. Like, why would you do that? He was just
Bruh.
sitting there, just drawing his ass off.
Anybody
Why
else
would
does that. Anybody else does that. They turn it in. They're like done.
They turn it in and it's
Yeah.
done. But these were his
Yeah.
pencils. These were his layouts. Like he's so thoughtful and so skillful. And so like when you have idols that are like Mobius and Frank Quietly and Jeff Darrow, they're like, trust me, I'm just falling short. Like I say about those guys, just try to copy them and fall short, and you'll be publishable. You know, you'll have a career.
Yep.
You know, so that's all. I'm just a gimmick. You know, I'm just a B-level watered. I don't even want to say I'm B-level, dude. I can't even walk in the store when it comes to Quietly and
No.
the guys I like. So.
Oh, whatever. Damien
No,
from Sleepy
no.
Reader 666 has a good question. Does it make it harder to have too many influences on your art?
I think it's smart to do what you like. So when I first started out, it was very much like Seth Fisher. He was more mechanical, but like recently I love James Heron and Trad Moore, and they got all this volume, you know? So on AX-WIELDER, I was like, I'm going to try to, like, their guys get so much volume in their stuff. I'm going to do that. I don't care. Like, I always put them over. Like, anytime I talk about those guys, I love them. They're better than me. But also, I know I'm getting better at the same time. So I don't, like, some people are quiet. I just do my own thing. Nah, I just do what I like, you know, and I enjoy. If I like someone's work, I'm enthusiastic about it because I love comic art and love collecting, and I love the medium. So, and everyone's doing something different. And even if I cover a song and it's not just like, you know, who's ever singing, you're still getting a different take. I like covers of songs, and I don't want to be a cover artist my whole life, but I do think I'm trying to push myself and blend more ingredients as I go. I try to learn one thing and mix 2 things. Feel comfortable with that, mix 3 things. Get tired of that, maybe right now, and then try to combine something else and maybe add the He-Man aesthetic with whatever the corny aesthetic I was doing, and eventually try to find either I mix enough stuff out where you can't see it anymore, or I find my own voice, or it happens both at the same time. One of the 2 will happen. So.
Well, you can definitely, I mean, you say you wear your influences on your sleeve, but you definitely have your own Pitarra style that comes through.
It's corny. Yeah, I know.
No, I think it's awesome, and I think it works, man. You're selling yourself too short, man. Don't play the humble game here, man. We're fans. We're all good. We've been fans of yours for a decade at this point, man. I was a young man at 30 years of age when I got into your work, and now we're old men. But that's just the way it goes.
I think we're probably the exact same age. I think that's about when I was breaking in around that time. So,
yeah. You're you said you just mentioned you're about to be 40. I'm about to be 41.
okay.
In just like a week and a half. So yeah, that's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
Well, happy birthday, brother.
Oh well, thank you so much. This is the best present you can give me is being here tonight. So thank you so much.
Yeah. I was going to say you guys are approaching the age that I was at when I picked up Manhattan Projects #1. So
we weren't trying to make you feel old, Brian,
Nice.
but
I'm okay with that.
it
No
happens.
problem with it.
Man. It does.
It
Happen.
does
What else
happen.
you got, Brian?
Well, one question I always ask is, do you listen to music while you're creating? And like, what is there particular styles or anything if you do?
Two competing art. Well, the artist I've listened to the most and is Jim Croce. He's like a singer-songwriter from the 70s, died in a plane wreck. But he's a very much a linear storyteller. Like the man goes into the room, he sees the thing, he whoops his ass, someone else whoops his ass. It's a thing. And then I also love Elliott Smith, who also passed away.
Oh.
Elliott Smith is like more poetic, more you got to listen to the lyrics. Once you kind of get what he's talking about, then it all makes sense.
We were talking about that when I did my top 5 for like 2001 or 2 or something. We were talking about Royal Tenenbaums. You were on the
yeah, that's right, because I know Elliott's stuff so well, and I was so pumped when I saw that suicide scene. I was so psyched to hear Elliott Smith.
Right?
I mean? Oh, well, that was the first time I heard him. Was when I saw that movie in the theater, and I was just like, I was crying, and I went out and grabbed up like his whole catalog just from listening to that one song.
His stuff is great, man. There's so many good songs. There's a song it's not as popular, called Pestala, and it's like I think it's like a Greek word or an Irish word that's like darling or something, like a sweet thing you would say. And it's like I don't want to sing and mess up Robbie's thing he's got going here, but it's like there's a line in there that he says something like, "I'll tell you why I don't want to know where you are. I'll tell you why I don't want to know where you are, because I've been dying to tell you." It's like because he still wants her, so he doesn't want to know where she's at. Like there's like a space in between that he's trying to avoid, because he's thinking about her all the time. So if he hears something that's full of joy, it reminds him of that sweet girl, and he has a nickname for her. That's such strong songwriting, man. And that's just a throwaway song of his, And so like you have these, like the way he can write is really incredible. And then Jim Croce's more blue collar. Like I come from a family of construction workers, and like my dad was always playing him, and he was, it's just like Roller Derby Queen and all these different, crazy songs that he has. So I'm a big music guy. I like all kinds of music, though. There's not a genre I don't like when it comes to. How about you? What's some of your favorites?
Well, lately I've been listening to a lot of like Mogwai, Steve Reich, and stuff like that. But I've been listening to a fair amount of pop music lately, actually, with like Hunter Gex and Charlie XCX. I don't stay with one genre for too long. I do the same thing.
I'll burn them out. I'm really bad at listening to a song over and over. If I get into it, and it's like music. People are like, "You got to listen to the whole album." I'm like, "No, I like this song, dude," and I'll play it 30 times.
Sometimes I'll listen to a 2-minute song and I'm like, "Why isn't this 30 minutes long? If you just stretched it out, I wouldn't have to keep repeating it." I mean, like, I drive my wife crazy sometimes because I'll just keep repeating, and she's like, "Okay, you need to move on." But yeah, and I grew up with Jim Croce too. My dad was a big fan.
Oh, and, that's how I got into it. Is my father's a big fan, and I sing Operator. When I rock my girls at night, they're going to bed now. They're in there screaming, sorry, but we play Operator on repeat on the Wi-Fi, and we sing it together every night, man. It's a good song, and the lyric in Operator that is just the absolute best is he says, "She's living in LA with my best old ex-friend Ray. A guy she said she knew well and sometimes hated." Like of course she would say she hated him because they were fooling around, And so like lyrics like that you're talking like 2 sentences or a sentence that can invert and tell you something else about the thing he just said. Man, that's so concise, and you only got so many lines in a song to get your point across. And usually songs aren't that great, but when you can give me a line that really can turn the narrative on its head, or really open up your mind into your imagination into that world that lyricist is putting out there, I just love that kind of stuff, man.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
You want to ask me about Ninja Turtles before y'all boot me out of here? You want to know about the John Lee's turtle thing or no?
That's on my list here. So first of all, I just we just did the Huntsville Comic and Pop Culture Expo. Kevin Eastman was here, so I got to meet him. I got to do the panel with him. Super cool dude, freaking awesome. So I've been in turtle fever for like 3 months here, right? Getting ready for it, and now I bought the sewer play set from 1989 at the con. I'm super excited to start displaying that with my turtle figures and stuff. So when we had John Lees here for the first time, he mentioned that he had done a Michelangelo story with you.
Yeah.
I finally got a chance to read this story and loved it. This worm character, was that an original like idea from y'all, or was that something pre-existing?
It was like a toy that they didn't do a lot with. He showed up in maybe 2 issues, and so we wanted to like put our stamp on the new universe stuff. So I was like, let's pitch Worm, and I had that Worm toy sitting around for years. And we first off, like I love John Lee's stuff on when and then Emily Was Gone was just in script form, and he had got Ian Laurie, the artist we talked about earlier, like on board. I was like gung ho for that book. I was getting all my buddies to do covers for it because I'd read his script and I freaking loved the script, man. Very David Lynchy, very strange, but written so well. Mm-hmm. And what happened with him was he's trying to get his foot in the door. And but the Ninja Turtle editor would always be like, well, you want to do anything? And I would always do covers. And I was like, Michelangelo is my favorite. So maybe it was something with Mikey, but maybe I'll want to write it or something, And so, but then I was like, who I want to work with? John Lee. So I said, I'll do it, but I want John Lee's coming on too. And John had been developing a relationship with them already. So it wasn't that hard of a transition. And then we got to co-write it and look at the few appearances he had and build a story around it and kind of modernize him a little bit. And so if you're a Turtle fan, there's little winks to his couple appearances, but if you're not, I think it's a good standalone story with Mikey. And that was a blast to work on.
It definitely is a good standalone because I don't have much familiarity with the franchise at all, and I read it last night and freaking loved it. I thought it was a great story.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
And the art was just fabulous too. I mean,
I was spotting black, so I was putting more ink down for that one. Well, the new stuff is more open, but it was going to be in the sewer, and I was like, how can I get it well lit? So I was trying to add ink so that I felt a little uncomfortable drawing it, but I love drawing it. Like on AX-WIELDER, the art is like it's a system. Like I know I only have 2 pens. I can only draw this big. I can't mess up because it's going to shrink down and look good. So on that, it was more like raw. I was using dip pens and brushes and stuff. I would say I'm far from mastering.
I loved that book. I thought it was great. Mikey is my favorite turtle as well. So I love I really appreciated the spotlight on him, his reflection on his brothers, their relationship, how that kind of correlated to Worm. But I did feel a little called out because Worm's a bit of a collector too, just like myself. And there's a moment where I'm just like, it's so sad and tragic what's going on with Worm. I'm like, this is me. I'm like looking around. I'm like, why do I got a VHS collection? Like I was showing it off to a homie of mine the other day. He goes, do you have a VCR? I was like, no. But I got a bunch of VHSs. Why not? So I felt called out, but I still loved it. I thought it was great.
It was good. And John Lee's a great writer. And I do think like it's only a matter of time before the even bigger publishers get him. I know he's doing stuff, but I mean, imagine if he wrote a Batman story, like he would do something really cool.
Yeah.
And I think it's in the guy's future. He's got to keep working, and he's got the work ethic and he's got the talent. So, the sky's the limit for that guy.
John is so freaking good, man. Hotel Volume 2 and Crimson Cage just wrapped up, and they are freaking amazing. Like his work is so great. I'm so pumped to read Dig and to see more Sync when it comes out because I also love Alex Cormac's artwork. I think there's something insane about the people that he draws that it's so freaking crazy, man. I love it.
That's what I was going to say is that the Crimson Cage and if I had to pick a book of the month, I would have trouble because Crimson Cage and Hotel finales were both like he brings you along to a great story and everything like that. And every single thing I've read from his ending is always just jaw dropping. Like, I don't know how he does that every time.
His stories have bite, man. When I knew I wanted to work with him is he was taking his scripts that weren't even being published and he was taking the writer workshops and he was getting feedback and he was sending that's how I originally read it. Right. So Yeah, what is this, John? Joe Mulvey.
Joe Mulvey in the house.
Here's a Joe. Me and Joe Mulvey lost a couple $100 one night because I love to arm wrestle, and we were in. Where were we in? Joe
I was
Mulvey?
going to ask about the arm wrestling, bro. You're like Sylvester Stallone and over the top, man. What's going on here, man?
Man, I got to the number 6 ranked heavyweight in Texas. Number 6 super heavyweight in Texas. So
Nice.
I just always liked arm wrestling on the side, and just for fun. And I looked on ESPN one day, and they had arm wrestling, and I was in Austin at the time, and there was a guy on that was in Austin. I look him up, and he's like 3 minutes down the road. I call him up and say, "Will you give me some lessons?" He's like, "Just come to this bar we come to." And I'm like, "All right, I'm gonna go to this bar and see how I am." Dude, they just beat me up for 2 years straight. He destroyed me. And so, but I kept going back. It's a good way to get out of the house and get a little exercise. Although we just drink beer and arm wrestle, so we're not getting that much exercise. It's a good way to get out of the house. And yeah, the guys are cool. And I got a buddy who won the Arnolds, Greg Gray, and basically. Joe Mulvey was standing on the table screaming, "Come on, Nick, come on, Nick." Because I walked into a bar at a con. This was before I started doing it like a little bit professionally with Joe Mulvey. And I say, "Anyone in this bar I'll smash at arm wrestling." And Joe's like, I said it with so much confidence. Joe's dumb enough to believe it, right? So sure enough, somebody's like, "All right, I'll go find somebody." And I'm like, "Find whoever you want. We're going to smash them." And they find an absolute giant ex-football player. His name is Terry Turman. He goes by Terminator, and he is they pay him at shows to go as like Mr. Incredible, from the Incredibles. He wears the spandex. He's gigantic. He was a Viking that night, so he had he was drinking Diet Cokes out of a freaking horn, and his hand was so big that my fingers didn't come out of his palm. And then by then me and Joe had already made the bet. We had a couple hundred. So you should have seen Joe's eyes and the way he was, "Come on, Nick." And if you ever have Joe on, "Come on, Nick," man, his voice is like Joe Pesci is getting his balls squeezed, when he's screaming. So yeah.
Well, we got to have Joe on the show now. We're obviously big fans of Wailing Blade and Happy Hill, but now we have to get the other side of the story.
Oh, he's got he'll bring the energy, man. He's a firecracker, that guy.
I've got his children's book over here on the
shelf.
Yeah.
I remember that.
The Mummy. But I was going to ask you, when you arm wrestle, do you use your non-drawing hand just in case?
No, I'm like oddly very, very right-handed. I draw right-handed. Always use my right hand. And people always say, "You're going to hurt it, you're going to break it." I mean, you can break your arm and still hold a pencil. Come on now. What are you, a baby?
I don't know if you can break your fingers and still hold a pencil, though, man. I don't know.
It's not being a baby.
I've seen over the top. There's some crazy
people drawing with straws in their mouth and toes and stuff. And you're going to cry if you sprain your thumb. You know what I mean? Get out of here.
Fair enough.
I like that. I like that a lot. I want to ask a little bit about how it feels to be a bootleg Kubert School graduate.
Yeah, it was fun, man. So I had a buddy in high school. I didn't draw in high school. I played football and stuff, and I like to doodle, but I never really took it seriously. And I ended up getting kicked out of a English class for not doing my work. Because back then you only needed 22 credits to graduate instead of 24. Well, halfway through your senior year, you don't have to do anything anymore. So I wasn't going to. And so I got zeros in all my classes, and they had to remove me, put me all the remedial classes. And it was the best decision I ever made, because in that remedial reading class, there was a kid going to the Kubert School. His name was Isaac Martis, and he's one of my best friends to this day. And we started hanging out. We started going to the shop, and I found Frank Quietly's work, and he was going off to the school, and he let me come up there and visit. And we carpool, twice a year up to Dover from Houston. It was a 30-hour drive, and got to see some of the guys up there. Got to compare my work to them. They were all better than me. I went up there, and my Quietly joke is, I said, you guys like this Quietly guy? And they're like, "That guy draws like everyone's made of mashed potatoes." And I'm like,
I've heard that before.
Yeah,
I've heard that. It was like everybody just ate a lemon. I'm like, I don't care what you say. His artwork is amazing.
Yeah, it's beautiful. What are you talking about?
It's made me cry.
Yeah, I know, dude. He's so good. So it's like, so then I was like, all right, well, maybe I don't know what's good. But then Quietly started winning awards, and I was like, you know what, I'm onto something. This guy, this art hero of mine, and ended up for the senior year, I just went and lived with his 5 friends. It was on Mountainside Drive in Randolph, New Jersey. So we had a house up there, and I kind of couch surfed and gave them a couple $100 and they let me eat their food and hang out. And
So that's like year 2000, 2001, 99, something like that?
2003. So because I graduated in 2000, and it was the 3rd year was when I went up there.
Did you ever meet Ed Piscore up there? Was he going there
Yeah,
when you were up there?
Yeah, he was going there at the time. I didn't meet him, but back in the day, like, he's got this gimmick, this hip hop gimmick, and not a gimmick. Like, he used to wear the Flavor Flav clock to the showers and stuff.
Bruh.
Like,
It's
it's not a gimmick. There's a gimmick, there's a gimmick, and then there's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle for him, dude. It's not a gimmick. Like, I'm telling you, like, because my buddy was like, yeah, there's this guy who wears this Flavor Flav clock walking around, and it was him. So yeah.
That's awesome.
That's great.
Yeah, and then there's a couple of dudes. There's a David Nakayama was up there. He didn't finish because he was so good. He started getting work. He does a lot of variant covers and stuff, and fantastic artist. And Alex Sanchez has gotten work at DC and a little bit of Dark Horse. And you see some guys here popping up here and there that are still around. So yeah, and then somehow one thing for me is the thing that made me successful is I wasn't the best and still not the best, but I'm always trying to beat myself from the day before. I don't really compare myself to other artists. Every one of you is that you're on your own art journey. You're doing your own thing. You can only get better incrementally than you were the day before by practicing. If you look at Quietly or Jeff Darrow or Trad Moore or James Heron or any of these fantastic artists out there, you will crumble because it'll be so far away you don't feel like you can achieve it. But if you just advance every day or stick with it, you'll look around and people will start fading away. You'll rise above some of the competition for those jobs. Then you'll start getting those job offers. Sometimes, like, trying to break in, you feel slighted because you didn't get this, you didn't get that. But I always go back and look like, you know what? I shouldn't have felt bad because I drew like crap. You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't ready. When you're ready, the opportunities start flowing. So. But I always, though, my rule is always feel slighted, though, and use that as energy no matter what.
Yes.
Misconstrue it in your head, whatever you need to do, but use that spite to draw, baby. 100%.
Turn it into fuel, right?
Well,
don't complain, just turn it into fuel.
Yeah. All those guys you mentioned too evolved their style too, right? I mean, like they started somewhere.
Everybody does. Everybody does, but everybody does. That's actually Quietly's advice. It's all rolled into do your best work. If you're always doing your best work, no matter if it's a low paying gig or a no paying gig, if you're doing your best work, that means you're doing better than you did the day before, and that means you're winning the game of developing yourself. If you're drawing down to the gig or you're going to crap it out, well, then you're devolving, and you don't want to do that. You want to evolve. So
that applies to anything. That applies to life,
everything.
Right? Like just life in general. Be better. There's a rule I like to live by, and it's compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who somebody else is today.
Yep.
Right. And that's exactly what you hit. Jeff Darrow was incredibly influenced by Mobius's work to the point where they eventually became friends. And Jeff Darrow didn't ever feel like they were friends because he was like, this is an artist that I love and respect so much. I just love it. And you can see that style. Are you excited about the new Shaolin Cowboy coming out?
I'm excited, and I'm going to name drop, but he called me from France and we talked, and it was cool. He arm wrestled me at a show. We follow each other on Facebook.
Oh man!
Someone caught a video of it too, but he came up and he wanted to arm wrestle me, and it was cool. And
who won? You can tell us.
Who won?
Dude, Jeff Darrow is the master at all things, dude. He destroyed me. Come on.
You gave it to him, didn't you? You're like, oh man! You didn't want to break his hand. That's what it was. You didn't want to.
He recently called me from France though, because he saw AX-WIELDER JON and he was interested in it. I know he backed the book. I think he put us over 25,000. The Zoop guys are like, Jeff Darrow just backed the book, So
he gave you a pull quote, right? Without even reading it.
Gave me a full quote without reading it because he doesn't want to read digital. So he's like, I'll wait for the physical copy. He's like, how about super cool action? I was like, that'll work. It's as long as
I'm sure he saw the artwork though. So I mean, he had something to go on.
Yeah, but he sent me some pages in there. That book is so cool that Cruel to Be Kin, it's coming out soon. And dude, it's so good, man. Like, you should see the intro to that book. It is. like I love the intro to where he's fighting issue 2 of Shaolin Cowboy, where he's fighting the crab, and he fights that crab and he punches it. When it punches it, it's like page after page of double page spreads of that crab busting through people's bodies, and they're all flipping. Eventually it hits a Volkswagen, and he hits the Volkswagen so hard the Volkswagen like takes up and flips over in the air. That's how hard Shaolin Cowboy hit him. And I told him this new intro is almost as cool as that one. And he's cool, man. He's really sweet. We got a big draw. We got in the living room. We got a big drawing of a baby with like a woman in its head, and a lizard coming out of its belly button, and the lizard's got 2 guns. And it's a Jeff Darrow drawing, and the kids are always like, "What's that?" You know, I got a 2.5 and a 3-year-old girl, and they're like, "What the hell is that?" You know, they always ask me about it. Well, now that Jeff will text every now and then, or we talked, I'll send him videos of my kids like looking at him, be like, "Why is this? Why he got a gun? Why is a lizard there?" And I was like, "Jeff, will you answer these girls' questions?" It's like, "Why do you do this, Jeff?"
Explain yourself, Jeff.
Yeah.
Was the first time you ever met Jeff was when he barreled through a crowd to come and challenge you to arm wrestling? Was that the first time? Because that would be awkward, wouldn't it?
No, the first time was in 2012. He was at Heroes, and he was really sweet. And it's actually, I went and bought that original from him. I told him I loved his work, and he was really nice. And he flipped the original over and wrote his number on the back. But like he talks about with Mobius, he never wanted to bother him. I never called him. And I never called him. And then one day on my Facebook, he just messaged me in like a public thing I posted. He's like, "Nick, call me." Or Nick. I was like, "Oh God, he really wants me to talk to him this time." I was like, "Oh crap." So then I sent him on the Facebook thing, and he like called me through Facebook, and then we talked for like an hour. So he's so sweet.
Awesome.
Yeah, he's a sweet guy.
Cool.
That's so freaking cool, man. He's such an amazing artist, and like his work on the Matrix. I'm a big Matrix fan. And just that's super cool. That's super cool. If you ever talk to him again, when you talk to him again, be like, "About these fuckers in Alabama really like your work. It's no big deal." But
no, I'll tell you a story. He told me that he didn't know, because he was doing the design work on the Matrix movies, and the Wachowskis were sitting next to him at the premiere, and they did all this cool stuff. Like it's a big deal, he said, to get a title screen with just your name. Like it cost a lot of money with just your name on it, and they were fighting for Jeff to be branded like the man. And he said they did that for him. And he said he drew so much weird stuff for the Matrix, he didn't know it was going to be there. But he said, as like, you know, they were in those, like the people were being pulled out, the cords were coming out of their neck of the other side in the Matrix, you know, the incubation chambers. He's like, it was just like I drew it. And he said, as he was looking at it, he said he looked over because he could see the Wachowskis looking over like, "Yeah, we did it. We got it in there. You didn't think we would do it, you know?" And he said he was tickled about that. So awesome. Yeah, I was asking all those questions, you know, and I feel bad. Like I always feel bad because I know he always gets the questions that I'm gonna ask him. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I don't know anything about, like, he loves old kung fu movies, and I don't know much about it. So I'm like, and I'm sure he doesn't know anything about arm wrestling or whatever I'm into. So I'm just worried that the only thing we can talk about is me saying he's incredible, you know. But he's a sweet guy though, and he put up with me. So I hope we continue our relationship.
Well, my dream right now is to have you, Nick, and Jeff join us together to do a review of Over the Top. That's like my ultimate ambition now.
Dude, if you ever do on your movie night thing, if you ever do Over the Top, you better bring me on, bro.
Oh, you know I will now, and you better bring Jeff. That's all I'm saying. I don't care what time we have to do it. France is what, like 7 hours ahead of us, 8 hours? We'll make it work.
Like that, yeah, that's actually dead on the money, I think. I think it's 7 hours.
Hell yeah, man. That's awesome. Brian, you got anything else, man?
Well, you know, brought up Over the Top. Is there any movies you use for inspiration for anything? Or
oh yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, the big one for me was like I love Quigley Down Under. I don't know if you've ever seen Quigley. It's a Western with Tom Selleck, and that Basil Polidorus soundtrack I've listened to the whole time. And he did the RoboCop soundtrack and the Conan soundtrack, and I listened to that soundtrack all the time, Drawing John. But Unforgiven for me is my favorite movie, and I talked about it a little bit, but what I like about that movie in particular is everyone's saying stuff about everybody. But so like we have William Money, who is Clint Eastwood, and they're telling him, "Oh, you were this drunk, you were this killer, you did this, you did that." And he never owned. He's like, "Yeah, whatever." Very nonchalant, very stoic. And then other people like, you know, Little Bill or English Bob. English Bob, he's so into what people are saying about him, he's getting a book written about him. But then when shit hits the fan, he isn't half of what he said he was. And then when shit hits the fan with William Money, he's all of what everyone said he was, even though he never claimed it, and more. You know, he lives up to it all. And I love people. I love life, and that our brains have to stereotype stuff. We can only compute so much stuff. But then once you get to know someone, you see all this other parts of them. So with AX-WIELDER in particular, I really like the idea of what I show versus what he is, and doing that with every character. You know, show them one way, present them one way, shine a light another way. And I definitely love that theme in Unforgiven. So I consider like AX-WIELDER John a barbarian Western, you know, because I'm stealing so much from so many Westerns I love, which is, I made it way less marketable now, you know, like, oh, great. It's two genres that don't sell. Oh, by the way, I need to see Northman, man. I've been waiting to see that. Has anyone seen it yet?
No, I want to see that.
Yeah, The Witch was great. The one, the Lighthouse is crazy. I don't know what I saw there.
I haven't seen either.
You gotta watch
Lighthouse.
You gotta watch The Witch.
I have both of them on Blu-ray over there.
Man, I've been wearing Robbie out about watching The Lighthouse. I watched it over the Christmas break in 2020.
Why didn't you pick that for your movie review? You picked Isle of Dogs. You could have picked The Lighthouse.
Well,
yep. Now you're regretting it, Brian. I almost called you John.
I am regretting that. I could have had a horror contribution, and I passed on that. But yeah,
have y'all seen Green Room? It came around at the same time as The Witch.
No,
it's just called Green Room. It's fantastic. It's so good. Green Room and The Witch came out around the same time. Green Room it's like every good scary movie. It's like a haunted house movie in its own way. Just how like we're stuck here, we're gonna do something. Dude, Green Room's so good. Green Room and The Witch came out around the same time, and I love both. So, but The Northman, I'm pumped about.
Yeah.
I just started getting into some A24 stuff because I watched Hereditary for the first time last year. I watched Midsommar for the first time this year. And X has been my favorite movie of the year so far, which is from Ty West. That's his name.
It's called X. I don't know what it is. What is that?
Yeah, it's just called X. It's about so it's set in like 1978 or 9 or something like that. It's about this group of people that go to film a porn video in a guest room in a Texas, like an old couple's Texas estate. It's really awesome.
This is crazy. I went to school. There was an old house, an old country house, and they absolutely, because I went to school with a girl who lived in that house. It's like an old estate, and she had to leave her house for a weekend because they did a Playboy shoot in the house.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, it's in Houston, Texas. I know, like, it's crazy.
Yeah, they're outside of Houston or something in this movie. And
is that right? Is that right?
It's really good. It's got Brittany Snow, Mia Goth. It's really good. It's available now, like you can rent it digitally or whatever. It's just called X. Kid Cudi's in it. And I mean, they're making a porn movie, so it's everything you want. Like, it's got sex, it's got gore and violence. It's like Texas Chainsaw Massacre meets Boogie Nights, if that makes sense.
That's crazy. That sounds cool.
And it throws right back into the like that 70s horror aesthetic. Things that it makes you feel aesthetically like something like Last House on the Left or the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, those kind of things. And it really works for me. I think it's amazing. I'm a big horror movie fan, and I think that's my favorite movie of the year so far. Because most of the movies this year so far, I haven't really liked that much, but I did like the remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So are you a horror movie fan at all, Nick?
I'm not. I'm like, it's the same way with music. I'm like, I'll just jump around to quality stuff. At least I think it's quality stuff. But but for some reason, two relatively scary or thriller movies, The Witch and Green Room, both hit me strong. There's a scene in Green Room that make your butthole pucker, dude. It is through the roof, man. It is crazy. You'll love both of them if you're horror fans. They're fantastic. So
yeah, I have to check. I have to check those out for sure. Yeah, absolutely. We talked about Shaolin Cowboy real quick. Any new comics that you're into? Any new artists? Any new stuff that you're
gotta
into?
Hit that. So Nick Dragata's a buddy, and the work he's doing on that Ghost Cage is unreal.
That's my pick of the week, and not to spoil my Sunday show, that's my pick of the fucking month. That book is amazing, bro. That's Katsuhiro Otomo.
Yeah, and
reincarnated right
we
there.
went to Japan together like 5 years ago, and he was picking up all the stuff, and he was like he's way more into the manga stuff than me, but he was telling me what to buy and showing me stuff. But you're seeing all that stuff now after 5 years just leak into his stuff. It's like he's done the deep research, he's done the skill thing, and now he's just putting out his own work, and it's like, God, it's Otomo, it's Urasawa, it's all the guys that you dig, you know. Like I saw anyway. I'm watching him level up is cool because he's a really close buddy of mine, and yeah, like I think.
Do you
and
know? I was going to ask, like, maybe you got some inside baseball here. Do you know if he's using real screen tone in that book or if it's digital?
So the first 12, 13 pages were all by hand. He did a Batman black and white story that was also it looked fantastic, and that was by hand. So he can't do it by hand, but once the deadlines come, he can switch back to digital. So he's digital now.
He's still making it look organic. That's what I like.
Oh
about it.
yeah, it looks so good. His commissions are so good. Like I honestly think he's a burgeoning master. Like he's a couple years older than me, but he's just really taken that manga aesthetic and bring it to the American market at such a high level, you know. And he's the guys like him are just, they're so good, you know, dedicated and hardworking, and then to see them level up is just awesome. So
yeah, because his style's kind of changed pretty drastically. Because I actually do have a couple of original pages from him, but it's from the
really?
Dead Girl.
Oh yeah, I remember that stuff. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And then if you compare that to East to West though, with that manga influence, it's quite distinct. You know, I mean,
and he's gone further. He's gone even further now with Ghost Cage. So yeah, it's he's following what he loves, and I'm excited for him, proud of him. I hate that his book's coming out the same time mine does. You know, like this is my show, Nick Dragato. Why do you got to show up and ruin my parade? You know?
Yeah.
But,
and Jonathan's just sitting here like,
yeah, look at these two guys. They thought they were doing their own, but they're canceling each other out.
Should have joined Substack, buddy. I told you. Just kidding. Albert here says Ian Bertram. Obviously you've seen Little Bird because you got the same designer to do your book, right?
Yeah. Ian Bertram's fantastic. I went to we went to Belgium with Ian Bertram and went to France. Me and my rep Felix, and he's so good. Like when his stuff showed up in a Batman story, and this was before he did the short stories. It was like another one. I called Felix up. Like I'd say over half the Felix guys that are in Felix Comic Art. There's a big crew of artists. It's me because I'm an art collector. I'm like, dude, this young guy's awesome. This young guy's awesome. And I saw the Ian Bertram pages, and it was like, dude, the Ian Bertram guy's through the freaking roof, man. You got to get this guy. And he's like a high end studio guy, like very much a thinker, very much like a New York cool guy. You know, like I'm a down home idiot, you know, but hanging out with him, it's like he's like kind of sleek, kind of cool. You know, he's got an aura and a presence about him, but he's got the drawing chops too. You know, I'm a big Ian Bertram fan.
I love Little Bird so much.
Yeah,
it's my favorite
so
book
good.
that year. I've been waiting for Precious Metal. So so just, oh my goodness. You see he'll show some of his work, you know, on Instagram, and I eat that shit up. It's so freaking
Have you seen his big gallery pieces? They're like these 8 foot tall, like contorted figures that are.
I've seen some of them on, not in person, but like on like socials and stuff.
They're so good in person. They're amazing, but on socials they're incredible too. Like the rendering and the form and it's like his figures are almost sweating. They're so like contorted and but beautiful too. You know, they're like lovely and tick marked, and how he understands form and dances on the surface of a figure is really wonderful. I think he's fantastic. I really think he's a gallery guy doing comic book work, moonlighting in comic books, because he's got a huge ceiling. So
he had a recent drop on Felix's
all those portraits.
They're
great.
Man, I was working, I think, when that one actually drops, but you know, I don't know for folks watching the channel, if you've tried to get on one of Felix's drops, man, you got to be on it.
Yeah. You know, he won't even help me out. Like I was the first guy to go to Felix. He was a collector before we started that, you know, and I was like, I run my mouth. I'll get everybody. Got Dragato to come over. Got a bunch of people to come over, but he won't even give me the heads up. You know, like I got to jump in there too. I'm like, come on, man. But Bertram's fantastic. There's so many good artists. That's what I say. I try not to think about those guys. I just want to focus on my own work and not sweat.
Yeah.
But anyway, guys, I don't want this to drag out where we're just talking for talking's sake. I want to thank you guys for your time. Tell you guys that you are charming and handsome and thoughtful. And I love the questions. I love the energy of the show whenever I can catch it. And I appreciate you letting me hawk my comic books here. And the 3 times promoting it at the first week of the book is crazy. I appreciate you. And it means a lot, dude. So I owe you, I'll send you both sketches or book plates or something as a thank you for your time and help me put this book out there. So just stay on me about it. Make sure you just message me, because I've told like 3 or 4 people now. So, but I only got like 200 sketches to do. So after this big opening.
Yeah,
so,
we're not going to hassle you too much, Nick. I mean, but thank you for being here. I got one more question, and it's something I ask everybody, but have you ever had like a paranormal experience? Ever seen an alien or a ghost or anything like that you'd like to share?
Oh man, before we talked, if we talked about it, I could never do drugs again because I was a manic bipolar episode. But there was a time when I was so into Alan Moore, and I mean really into Alan Moore, and I was smoking weed, and I don't do that anymore. But I swear to you that I was looking at Alan on the screen, and I was talking to him, and I'm telling you, his head turned when I said the word Alan and looked at the screen and came back. And I was all into getting the hermetic stuff and, you know, all that witchcraft stuff, all that shit he's into, you know, which I love it. I love it as it works in design. It works in art. It works in storytelling. I love it. But I was like into it more of the time. I was like, I just see my thing. I said, Alan, and the TV did like this. He looked at me and I was like, nope, no more of this. So that's the closest. That's the close. And you know, obviously, you get senses of deja vu. I think I do think I mentioned this earlier when we started, but I think the world is. It's that quote in the Bible, John 1, is like the Word is God, and God was the Word. Well, if you go back and look at the translation of that, it's actually the mind. It's like the mind, what we're listening to upstairs. It's your consciousness. It's your morality. But you got to think that stuff before you speak it into the universe. You got to see a vision for something before you do it. Our whole world is constructed of people's imagination. We're walking around in little figurines of it. And the fact that we're walking around in the all mind or language or God, there's different words for it in all these different hemispheres, but we're talking about the same damn thing. And it's a metaphysical thing for sure. But, you know, this is why I can't smoke pot ever again, because I'll go deep down the rabbit hole with this stuff.
Hell yeah. I can't think of a better way to end it than that. So thank you so much, Nick, for being here. I encourage everybody to check out AX-WIELDER JON. There is a link in the description below. You want to get this book. It is awesome. You don't want to miss out and all that stuff. And Nick just opened a whole can of worms. So hopefully one day we can have Nick back on the show and we can talk a little bit more. But Nick, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We really do appreciate it. Any final thoughts, where people can find you on socials? Once again, AX-WIELDER JON, check it out. Link in the description below. What's up, Nick?
I bought the URL AX-WIELDER JON or AX-WIELDER.com, and it'll take you right to the Zoop page. If you guys want to check it out, you can just read the Zoop page, and you can see the pull quotes and see the process and see that, and then you'll see if you like it or not. If you don't like it, it's cool. If you read it, maybe you'll dig it, but it's a cool page, and shows the last work of process on the book. We're almost complete with it. I should be done with the line art at the end of the month when this campaign ends. Then I got to jump in to help colors. Then I got to fulfill all these sketches I got to do. So we're looking to go to press in a month or 2 after that, but not very long. So it's a book that's almost complete. It's a book I'm super proud of. Thank you guys for listening, the audience for listening, and Robbie and Brian, thank you guys for y'all's time tonight, man. You guys take time away from your family to let me promote a silly comic book, and it means the world. So I appreciate you guys.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for
absolutely. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us. It's been our honor and it's our pleasure, Nick. All right, everybody, we're dipping out. Check out, like, y'all, seriously, if you do anything for me this entire time I've been here on YouTube, go check out this book and support it because it's awesome. We're dipping out, and